Hi, everybody, and welcome to our webinar today from the Faculty of Forestry on our Professional Masters programs. We're going to be having a panel discussion. It's great to see so many of you here. My name is Shane Moore. I work at the Faculty of Graduate and Postdoctoral Studies, and I can see we've got people listening in from Nigeria, Kenya, Vancouver, a couple of people from Vancouver, Rwanda. We've got someone listening in from Vancouver, Washington, Malawi, Pakistan. Amazing. So wherever you're listening in from, it's a really warm welcome from us. Thanks so much for joining us today. Before we begin, I just want to take a moment to acknowledge today that we're broadcasting from the traditional, ancestral and unceded territory of the Musqueam. The Musqueam are one of the First Nations of Canada, and it's on their traditional and unceded territory that UBC Vancouver is located. If you're listening from outside of Canada, what I'm just speaking at the moment is a land acknowledgement, and you'll often hear land acknowledgements during your time at UBC Vancouver because UBC Vancouver is located on the traditional territory of the Musqueam. And I know you'll be doing your research at the moment into UBC and its programs, and I'd also encourage you alongside that, if you haven't already, to read more about the history of these lands and the history of the Musqueam. It's a great way to feel more connected to the place. We've got a really great panel ready to tell you more about our professional programs and also application and answer your questions. But another bonus is that you have, by joining this session, you'll be part of a prize draw, a raffle, to win one of these pretty cool sweatshirts. I found out today that there's only 10 of these in existence. So you have the chance to win one of these today, simply by listening in. So we'll do the prize draw towards the end of today's session, and we'll send you your sweatshirt if you win wherever you are. We'll send that to you. Before we begin the panel, I just want to take a moment to introduce UBC and introduce the Faculty of Forestry. UBC is not only one of the best universities in Canada, but one of the best in the world. UBC consistently ranks among top universities in terms of its research output and its programming. And at UBC, we have 12 faculties and over 11,000 graduate students studying on our Vancouver campus. The Faculty of Forestry is one of those, and it's recognized as one of the top forestry faculties in the world in terms of its research and programming into forestry and environmental science and other related disciplines. So if you graduate from UBC Forestry, you'll be gaining an internationally recognized qualification. And a big part of the reputation from the Faculty of Forestry is through their research. So UBC Forestry is a real hub for really groundbreaking research into climate change solutions, sustainable resource management, and a variety of other areas. And that knowledge and the ideas that are generated within the faculty you'll benefit from that. You'll learn about that cutting edge knowledge in class in your program. So you'll benefit from working so closely with our faculty members. We have really great state-of-the-art facilities within the faculty and really great resources for you, including research forests and excellent labs and technologies for you to work with. So we have a really great community here, a really great set of programs, and we're going to focus today on our professional programs. So what we'll do to begin with is run through each of our professional programs, and then we will answer your questions. So if you have questions today, please post them into the Q&A. So I'm going to close the chat shortly, but please post any questions that you have into the Q&A. And you can also upvote questions. So if you've seen a question that somebody else has posted and you really want to hear the answer to that one, make sure that you upvote that, and we're going to answer your questions in the second half of the session. But without further ado, I'll pass it over to Kathleen to talk about the Master of Geomatics for Environmental Management.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Shane. So I'm Dr. Kathleen Copeland. I am the coordinator and lecturer in the Masters of Geomatics for Environmental Management program, also called MGEM. which is one of our 9-month intensive course-based masters here at UBC Forestry. So for this program, students would arrive on campus at the end of August, where we sort of start the program off with this intensive week and retreat. And then students would wrap up and submit their final assignments towards the end of April. And so the MGEM program really aims to provide mid or early career, or maybe those who are looking to change careers, this sort of geomatics, geospatial, and remote sensing toolkit, and sort of upgrading of geospatial skills. So it aims to fill in gaps that might exist from other undergraduate degrees, and really focuses on providing these sort of technical, computer, and analytical skills. Some of the main courses that you would expect and that are in the MGEM program are, there's 2 remote sensing courses taught by Dr. Nicholas Coops, and these courses have embedded within them are coding intensive, very specifically focused around R. We also have our GIS courses. We have a course on Python and data management. We have spatial stats and a landscape ecology course. And then all of these courses sort of get pulled and folded together into an integrated capstone course where students get to work through a project from that beginning and inception phase and proof of concept all the way through the entire year, where they get to present it and have their results at the end, working with real data and a real client. And so here we have some photos from our last cohort. So the first photo up at the top is us out at the Loon Lake, the research forest, which Shane mentioned earlier is one of UBC Forestry's working forests at the start of the year. We have a cohort from a year ago. So that's everyone in the past cohort, all in the classroom together there in the top. So you get to work in this great sort of close-knit environment. We actually have a brand new classroom this year. So the classroom space looks a little bit different in that program, but we've updated it. Brand new computer monitors, top-of-the-line computers. So it's a great space to work in. And then in the bottom row is just some of the sort of hands-on activities that we try and make sure students get access to. So everyone gets the chance to fly some drones at the start of the year. We also fly some of the bigger drones, but those ones have to be, we tend to have Liam lead those because he has this big drone license, working with some of the Trimble and GPS equipment. And then the last photo in the bottom is just this sort of computer space and setup. And really, so the MGEM program, to sort of wrap it up, is really aimed and geared towards sort of up and coming environmental analysts or consultants, people who are data driven and enjoy getting into the sort of nitty gritty of data analysis. Now, perhaps you're someone who is a bit more sort of policy or bigger scale focused. You might be better suited or more interested in the program that Terry is going to introduce next. So Terry, over to you.
Thank you, Kathleen. So I'm Terry Sunderland. I'm the director of the Master of International Forestry program. And it's a 12-month program, and it's aimed both at early career professionals who want to consolidate their forestry training or natural environment training, and broaden their span into international forestry issues. And interestingly, many of the issues that we experience in forestry in BC resonate basically internationally, and many of the forestry issues I've worked on internationally are very prominent in BC. And it's a course that's also focused on mid-career professionals, people who want to change careers and enter forestry for the first time. And it's a very good grounding in issues related to international forestry. It's a 12-month course. We spend 8 months on campus, and we have taught courses such as Forest Business Enterprise, Natural Resource Planning, Forest and Society, which really underpins or is the cornerstone of the course, understanding how forestry contributes towards sustainable development in particular. And we have topics in international forestry where we bring guest speakers in from around the world to share their experiences of international forestry issues. And then we have a 4-month period post-April, either for directed studies, which are designed essentially for students who wish to take a research path and focus on working with a designated professor on a particular topic, which may lead to further research studies at PhD level or elsewhere. Or we have placements or projects where students are placed in institutions where they undertake specific activities related to their studies, but also contributing to a real world situation in terms of working with institutions doing and tackling real world issues. Could I have the next slide, please? Thank you. So a part of the course this year, we've instituted a new field trip to Costa Rica, and that's part of the tuition fees. And that's going to be taking place on an annual basis. We're going to be working closely with Cartier to look at the forestry issues in Costa Rica. And I just want to emphasize that a lot of the work that we do as part of the MIF program is based on experiential learnings, lots of day trips, lots of engagement with real life forestry issues. We also engage with international policy processes, the picture on the top right there, such as the UNFCCC COPs, CBD COPs, etc. We often have representation from student bodies at various COPs and engaged in policy processes and understanding how those policy processes play out on the ground. And there's just a couple of pictures of interns who were last year in the international campus of ICRAF, for the World Forestry Center. And just to reiterate, the bottom right picture is a sort of show and tell session with an external speaker who is sharing their experiences of their own careers and career development. And at this stage, I think I'll pass over to Ken to talk about MSFM.
Thanks very much, Terry. My name is Ken Byrne. I'm the lecturer and coordinator for the Master's Sustainable Forest Management program, otherwise known as the MSFM program. And it is typically a 9-month program starting in August and leading until April of 2026. It's ideal for students with an undergrad in a natural science degree, preferably around environmental sciences, biology, ecology. There are many others. And it is ideally suited for students who are interested in getting into the forestry profession in any capacity. It could be environmental restoration. Many students go into peri-urban type work. And of course, there is the classic forest industry. And what we do is we take your undergrad science degree and we layer on top of that all of the forest management and silviculture that feeds into site and landscape level projects in the 2 terms and the 2 full terms in the winter. So this term we're working on a landscape project. Last term we worked on a site level project, and it's very much focused on experiential learning. Next slide, please. We also have a 22-month option, and because we often get professionals who realize that they've reached maybe a glass ceiling without a RPF or a professional designation, they can't go any further. So we have had students who maybe their employer doesn't want to let them go for a whole 9 months. So in that case, you can join us for August to December, and then leave for a year, and then come back and finish the 2nd term with the following cohort. So this allows maximum flexibility for especially early and mid-career professionals who want to attain that accredited professional designation. And what that means is that you're legally allowed to practice as a registered professional forester in Canada, and we are also accredited in the United States with the Society of American Forester if you choose to pursue your certified forester there. Next slide, please. So we have a small cohort, maximum of 24 students, and it is divided up further into small crews. And you can see there right in that middle frame, middle to the right there, there's even a smaller crew of 4 or 5 people, literally getting their hands dirty in the field and identifying plants, identifying soils, really understanding what the forest is at the stand level, and then scaling that up to the landscape level and working with state-of-the-art landscape planning tools, and of course all the faculty experts that we have here at UBC. We do several field trips per year in each capstone course, the one in the summer, the one in the fall, and the one in the winter term. We have a 1-week-long field trip. The one in the summer, we go to the beautiful Kootenays in the southeast part of British Columbia. And the site level plan, or the site level course, is done through a capstone project that we spend a week out at Malcolm Knapp Research Forest, and which is a rare gem. for any university to practice forestry, see how it's done in the field, and the students actually get to go back and take a look at the block that they've planned out as it's being harvested and provide their own observations about it. We have additional day-long field trips that go out to return trips to Malcolm Knapp Research Forest Mission, and we also have overnight trips to Vancouver Island, and we attend conferences where students get to network and exchange ideas with subject matter experts, both in the field and in the classroom. So we are very focused on bringing in exemplary professionals, the kind that we would like you to emulate when you go out into the field and practice. And I think I'll pass that on to the next one. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Ken. My name is Sarah Barron. I'm the program director for the Master of Urban Forestry Leadership Program. We're very excited to announce that we'll be hosting our first full-time in-person program starting this July. So that'll be a 13-month program, starting actually online in July, with students expected to arrive by late August to start coursework in September. We've also been offering a 25-month part-time online program. We've noticed that many of the students interested in our program are working professionals unable to move to Vancouver, and so we've been teaching online in a part-time format for the past few years, students from across North America, Europe, and Australia. And that one takes 25 months, but you do about half of the coursework throughout the term. Our program is designed to educate and empower the next generation of urban green professionals. We teach students the urban forestry approach to developing green and resilient cities, because we believe that urban forestry is uniquely positioned to address some of the most pressing social and environmental challenges of our time. We have courses touching on climate change, environmental justice, and the biodiversity crisis, for example. And we know that solving these problems requires creativity, strategic thinking, and effective decision-making. And these are skills that we hone throughout the program and throughout our various courses. We strive to prepare leaders who understand the transformative role of urban forests and are capable of managing sustainable projects to enhance urban living. We build expertise in balancing competing demands placed on urban forests while embracing new innovations in planning and assessment to achieve better outcomes in management. And we hope to foster confidence, competence, and a culture of lifelong learning. We're constantly working with our alumni from the program. Many of our graduates are now leading municipal urban forestry programs and teams, which is really exciting to see. Some of the things that you'll learn throughout our courses are leadership and collaboration skills, how to manage urban forestry programs, projects, and interdisciplinary teams effectively, how to navigate complexity, evaluating political, legal, business, and cultural contexts of urban forestry, solving urban challenges, how to analyze difficulties and opportunities of growing trees and vegetation in urban environments. Communication skills are incredibly important. So how to gather, interpret, and share information about urban forestry across a range of potential participants or potential recipients of that information. Engaging communities, how to collaborate with local partners and communities to design and implement impactful urban forestry projects, and building global connections. So our students participate in professional networks locally, nationally, and internationally. And some of those opportunities include a field experience every year. In the past, we've traveled to Italy, to Utrecht in the Netherlands, and to Malmo in Sweden. This year, we're planning to go to Melbourne, Australia. So we changed the location, but students have an opportunity to learn from experts in the field on the ground in these international locations. We have guest lectures from international experts in urban forestry throughout the program, quite a few of them. And we also provide opportunities here for students to manage projects. That's the picture on the bottom. The bottom of your screen is some of our students presenting a workshop to students at the Malcolm Knapp Research Forest. So we have extensive connections both internationally and locally to connect our students with job opportunities and career advancement opportunities. I think that's enough about our program for now. I'm going to pass it on to Rebecca to tell us a little bit more about program requirements. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Hello, my name is Rebecca Kim, and I'm one of the admissions coordinator for the professional master's programs. In the following slides, I'll cover the general admission requirements and application procedures. So for the general admission requirements, the academic background requirements vary slightly and are specific to the program. However, a minimum of a bachelor's degree is required to apply for the professional master's programs. And typically degrees in forestry and as well as conservation and natural or environmental sciences are preferred. If your degree is irrelevant, sometimes the relevant coursework and professional work you've completed in areas related to forestry may be considered for admission. So don't hold back from applying just because your degree is not directly related to forestry. For GPA requirements, we require a minimum bachelor's degree equivalent to a 4-year program at UBC with a minimum average of B+ in senior level courses if your credential is from a North American institution. For international credentials, we will assess your overall GPA to ensure it meets the B+ standard. You will be able to find the comprehensive information on the general requirements for international credentials in the graduate and postdoctoral studies website, which I will be sharing the link in the chat box shortly after my presentation slide. For the English language proficiency requirements, the test is required if your degree is from a university outside of Canada in which English was not the primary language of instruction. And with TOEFL and IELTS being the most commonly submitted, the minimum TOEFL score required is 100, with specific minimum scores for each component is reading 23, writing 24, listening 23, speaking 22. For IELTS, you will need minimum overall band score of 7, with at least 6.5 in each component of the academic test, not the general test. Next slide. So to apply to the program, you are required to complete an online application by paying the application fee. The link to the application portal is available on our program webpage or the UBC Graduate and Postdoctoral Studies website. And also we offer application fee waivers to the students whose citizenship and their residential address are located in one of the world's least developed countries declared by the UN. Second is, as part of your application, you'll be asked to list all post-secondary institutions you've attended and upload scanned official transcripts for each entry. I've seen applicants uploading screenshots of their unofficial grades from their student services portal from their institution, and this will not be considered official. You'll still be asked to upload a copy of your official transcript to proceed to the next stage of the admission process. Additionally, if you have taken courses as a non-degree or exchange student, you still need to include those institutions and their transcripts. Number 3 is the reference. List 3 references with minimum 1 academic reference required. Please note that our application system does not recognize email addresses from free domains such as Gmail, Hotmail, or Yahoo, and therefore it does not send out a unique link for submitting online references. So ensure your referees are using email addresses from private domains, unless they prefer to submit hard copies of the reference letters to our office. And this year we encountered issues with uploading reference documents on the application portal. And to minimize these errors, please ensure your referees are using compatible browsers such as Google Chrome or Firefox. If they experience difficulties uploading the file, advise them to clear their browsing cache before attempting to access the reference submission page. The final, number 4 is the English language proficiency test, as I mentioned in the previous slide. And number 5 is submit your program questionnaire, letter of intent, and curriculum vitae. This is very important, and I want you to be sure to submit your supporting documents. These documents give you the opportunity to share more about yourself and professional background. In your statement of intent, clearly outline your reasons for wanting to join the program, and your goals and your commitment to the field. This section is vital for presenting a strong and compelling case. So take the time to express your objectives and how you plan to apply your knowledge in the field of study that you're applying for. Next slide. For personal questions specific to your situation, please contact us at forestry.cbm@ubc.ca, and we have more information on our webpage at pm.forestry.ubc.ca. That's all from my side. I'll pass it on to Shane.
Thanks, Rebecca, and thanks to all of our panelists. That was really excellent, a really great overview of the programs, and really getting a really good feel for what the programs are about. I can see some great questions have been posted already, but if you do have any questions, now is definitely the time to post them into the Q&A. We've got 30 minutes or so now where we're going to answer your questions, so do let us know anything that you're thinking, any questions that you have. Let's dive in here, and I'll post some of these questions to our panelists. There's a first question here from Ezra. They don't specify which program, so I'm sorry about this. Maybe we could try and talk about it more generally, but they're wondering if there's some sort of a co-op placement during the summer months. Is there a flexible option in order to be able to work in the field while attending school? So I think Ezra's looking, is there an opportunity to work, to get co-op experience, get experience in Canada during or around the program? Would anyone be able to speak to that?
Yeah, I could speak to that because I see that Ezra also has another question related to a 2-year degree at Algonquin College. So maybe I can start with the co-op question. We don't have co-ops within the MSFM program, within the Master's Sustainable Forest Management program. It is very experientially based program anyway, so a lot of the work you do will be comparable to, we try and simulate as best as possible what you're going to be doing as a professional in the field. So it's not a co-op of sorts, but it is very experientially based learning. Regarding your first question on the Algonquin College as a forestry technician, with a technical diploma, you still need to qualify for the Faculty of Graduate Studies, and I think Rebecca could expand on that further. But if you do have another undergraduate degree coupled with your forestry technician diploma, that is a good combination. Thanks,
Ken. That's great. Next question here from Brian, who's in Malawi. A couple of questions. Does the Master of Sustainable Forestry program have other scholarship alternatives apart from the Master's Card scholarship? And secondly, does someone who has more than 5 years of experience in forestry in their home country have an advantage in the application process for the MSFM?
So which question was that, Shane?
Sorry, Ken, that was from Brian. Yeah. So...
Okay. So yes, absolutely. So Having experience is weighted very heavily in our evaluation of candidates. So obviously you do need the basic requirements for the Faculty of Graduate Studies. But then we look at other things too, and experience. If you've got 5 years experience, that does count quite a bit, and we assess each individual on their own merit with a combination of the education, the experience, and that letter of intent is also very useful in helping us evaluate why you want to attend the program and how motivated you are for the program as well.
Thanks, Ken. There's a lot of questions for the MSFM program. There's a really good one here from Anne, actually. So maybe I can ask this to you, Ken, but then we could broaden it and hear from the other panelists.
Okay.
Because Anne is from Kenya and passion for studying sustainable forest management, and they've qualified for the MasterCard Foundation Scholars Program, who've given them the go-ahead to apply for the MSFM. And the question is, what does it take to be part of UBC? So I think Anne's looking for kind of application advice. Like, what do we look for in an application when you're reviewing applications? What are you looking out for? What makes a strong application?
Well, there's a team of us that review it, and so there's a few eyes looking at it, but we're looking at the academics, and it does, and of course there is 2 categories. There's first class and general admission. First class being, I think, over 80%, and general admission being between B plus 76 and 80%. So as long as you've qualified that minimum of 76%, then you've cleared that academic hurdle. Going back to the previous comment about experience, if you have a lot of field experience, forestry professional experience, that will more than make up for the fact that maybe you have a general admission on your academics. And then we also look at how well you communicate in writing, in expressing your desire to be in the program. So we use that letter of intent to understand the motivations for people entering the program, because we're looking for people that are really passionate about being in the forest, and developing sustainable forests for a wide variety of values, not only timber, but biodiversity and non-timber forest products and First Nations. So really having an open mind and a strong desire to work, I guess, collaboratively with people.
That's really insightful. Thanks, Ken. I hope, and that was helpful for you as you start your application. Maybe I can just throw that same question out to the panelists. I know there'll be some similarities, but what makes a strong application for your programs? Is there anything that you look for when you're reviewing applications? Would anyone want to jump in on that?
Sure, I can jump in. For the Masters of International Forestry, we're all embracing, basically. We have people on our current cohort and previous cohorts who've had 0 forestry experience in the past, and have come for a change in careers, a change in emphasis on what they want to do in life. And we've had very technical foresters as well. We also deal with a lot of people who have practical experience, and that counts for quite a lot. Even if your GPA is not at the level at which the Graduate Studies Office requires, we can often make concessions based on relevant practical experience. So we do very much value real-world experience to bring to the classroom, and that's, as I say, it emphasizes and builds upon the experiential learning that is part of the MIF program.
That's great. Thanks for that.
I guess I can also just jump in about the MGEM program, which, sort of echoes what both Ken and Terry said, in that when we have our sort of team look at the different applications that come in for the program, we really try and take this sort of holistic view and try and sort of partition out who a person is who's applying for the program, what are their motivations, and what are they trying to get out of the program. And so although MGEM, you know, I said it was this technical analytical course, we've had students in the program from all different backgrounds. We've had students come in who have not had science backgrounds. I believe we had a poli-sci student a couple of years ago, and all of these sort of different backgrounds sort of add to this cohort structure that we have, where different people have different skills in different areas, and it builds this robust and dynamic sort of classroom environment where everyone gets to learn from everyone. So people come in and someone might have a great background in computer science and someone might have a great background in geography, and they sort of help each other sort of fill in some of the gaps in their knowledge. It's this sort of great group. And so when we were looking at our applications, we're sort of, yeah, taking to some extent this higher level view, especially, you know, making sure that we've checked off some of these minimum requirements, but sort of trying to make sure that we're bringing, what I like to say is bringing in the right people to fill the right seats for the right program. And I think this applies for all of them, that we want the right person in each of our programs who's really going to enjoy the intensity and the dedication that we ask you to put into these programs.
That's really helpful. Sarah, did you want to jump in on this as well?
Hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay, fantastic. Sorry, my settings are going wonky on the video. I echo the comments of Ken, Kathleen, and Terry. We look at the holistic package of incoming students and really look for passion for urban forestry, whether or not you have a background in that space. Often your personal statements are the place to share a story, anecdote, or sort of the inspiration for why you've applied for this program. And we've had students from a range of backgrounds, and that's really enriched the conversation in our classes. And so background in an allied field isn't necessary for our program, but the passion for urban greening coming through in your personal statement or your motivational letter are really important to us when we do the evaluations.
That's great to hear. Thanks, Sarah. This is all really insightful, really helpful, I think. And Ken, I think you wanted to jump in to talk about those who don't have the science background or science undergrad.
Yeah, I know a couple others have mentioned that too, and I just wanted to clarify as well that it's not, don't lose hope if you've got an arts degree. We have accepted people into the MSFM program in the past with arts degree. It doesn't disqualify you from having the science undergrad credits. So maybe you have an undergrad in arts, but you could, if you took some biology and ecology and some additional science credits, that would qualify you. We have had people like that in the past, and I find that they bring a lot of value to the cohort because forestry is a lot more than about trees and landscapes. It's a big part of it is dealing with people, and somebody with an arts degree does have that wider perspective that I think provides a more holistic element to the classroom. Similarly, for those who are close to but not quite meeting the Faculty of Graduate Studies GPA for academics, if you make up for it in other ways, like 10 years experience, or maybe you did a degree 10 years ago when you were a different person and now you're differently motivated, we can write a rationale if there's other things that compensate for that.
That's great. I mean, what's clear from those answers is that the team here is really looking very closely at all of the applications. So I know that if you're thinking about graduate school, it can often feel quite daunting, and maybe you're not sure if you have the right qualifications or if you're good enough to go to grad school. But what I'd say is don't hold back, and if contact the team, put together an application. Don't deselect yourself. The team will look really closely at your application, and they're taking an holistic view. They're looking very positively at your application. So don't hold yourself back. Do let the team know any questions, and put together your best application. There was another question here actually, just again on the MSFM program from Delphine. Just what kind of capstone projects or research opportunities do students typically undertake, and how are they aligning with current trends in sustainable forestry?
Yeah, great question. So We have two main capstone courses in the program. One occurs in the fall between September and December, and that's focused at the site level. And we actually have you go out and assess a block. It's usually around 15 to 20 hectares, and you gather all the ecological data. There's some additional data that will inform you about social values, about Indigenous values that you'll need to integrate into the plan, as well as additional research that will be required to do your due diligence and developing a plan that is implementable. So you could hand it to a forester or a contractor, and they would be able to understand what your intentions are for that site level block. We do maintain current and up-to-date with current legislation around Indigenous people, and with a focus on reconciliation. So that's one current area of focus. Other current areas of focus that we find that students get interested in is the recruitment and retention of old growth. There might be restoration values that need to be done. As you know, we've experienced a lot of fires, and it takes the skilled knowledge of a professional forester to restore those ecosystems. So the list goes on. There's many topics that are currently very important. Climate change is another, and we do address all of those in the program, both in the site and the landscape level capstone project. In the second term, January to April, where we're at now, we always coordinate with usually a community forest or a forest tenure that has either owned or has a strong connection to a First Nation. So we're continually weaving those Indigenous values throughout the program. And we always pair up with what we consider as a reputable forester or reputable organization. So that is a good example for students to follow in sustainable forest management. And those landscape level courses assemble all the data across thousands of hectares, and you actually plan out scenarios going into the future, 100, 200 years. And you get to try out, what if I tried this? What would the outcome be? What if I tried that? So you model it first and then present it as options that a forest manager can implement across the landscape. Again, there's always that a direct experience working with people. More and more now, it's essential for foresters to have really good people skills, conflict resolution skills. So we're constantly updating our program to make sure that we're staying relevant for skills that we know foresters are going to need to be successful as a professional.
Excellent, thanks, Ken. Next question here from Noelle. As a recent graduate with limited professional experience, what are the primary benefits of pursuing a professional degree in forestry compared to a research-based degree in terms of career opportunities, practical skill development, and long-term professional growth? I think that's a really great question. Yeah, thanks.
I can answer that one, Shannon. Yeah. I think that's a really good question for the people on the call, because you are considering perhaps graduate school through a professional program like you're hearing about here versus a research program. So generally the distinction is that a professional program is giving you skills, giving you opportunities that then really prepare you for the workforce. And they give you those skills in a relatively short period of time. Most of the content of these programs is through courses. You work in a cohort, you do those courses either individually or in groups, those assignments, and ultimately then you get your degree in a fairly short period of time that then is very focused on you having a professional career in that particular area, whether you choose to be geomatics or international forestry, urban forestry, or a registered practicing forester. So these professional programs are very designed to plug you into the workforce, and they're giving you that very quickly through condensed programs and mainly through coursework. Doing a research program, for example, a research master's or a research PhD, obviously you're working more individually. You might have a supervisor, but you're working on a research topic, or ultimately you write a thesis, and that thesis then is a body of work, which then you might use that to try and get a job as a researcher. Maybe you might continue from a master's to a PhD. Ultimately, your job might be a PhD. You might become a professor, become an academic, and so on. So the pathways are quite different depending on your career aspirations and what you'd like to go away and do. Doing one doesn't stop you from doing another. So there are students that do come through all of our programs that might do a professional program and then jump into doing a PhD, but that's relatively uncommon. That's not our direct market for the people we have. Terry did indicate that MIF might be a program where you might do that more than others. But in general, the programs that we have are sort of designed for, the professional programs we have are designed for that workplace element, whereas a research program, you'd be focusing on research. I could also just mention, Shane, there's a couple of very, very specific questions there that you really are better off asking, just emailing. The helpline that we have and all of us can answer. The one about the transfer program and having a bachelor degree and you've transferred from a college to a university and got your degree. I don't think there's a problem there, but please email one of us and we can check with that. And this question about whether you can work in Canada after getting the degree, we're really reticent about giving immigration and career advice around Canadian rules around that, because as many of you know, Canada is in a bit of a state of flux around that. So these things change. And so I wouldn't want to guarantee that you're able to get a work permit and guarantee that you're able to get a job in Canada after doing any one of these degrees, but because Canada's rules are changing all the time. But we are convinced that anyone who does any of these programs is very, very likely to be employed. You're very, very employable. All of these programs have almost 100% success rate in people finding jobs back in their home country, within Canada, and getting a visa to support that, going to the US, or taking on a variety of different roles following the degree themselves. We're always focused on ensuring that you've got the skills to then get a job. That's the point of a professional program. So whether you choose to stay in Canada and can stay, whether you choose to go home to your home country, whether you choose to go elsewhere, we've got lots of success stories around past students that have done that. So reach out to us individually if you'd like to hear more of those stories, and we can certainly let you know. Thanks, Shane.
No, thank you, Nicholas. That was really helpful. I'll just put a link into the chat. As Professor Coops mentioned, the situation does change in terms of immigration, but you can keep up to date on the Grad Studies website. We have a page there where we're going to put up the latest information. At the moment, if you graduate from a master's program, you would still be eligible for a postgraduate work permit. So do check out the page. The link is in the chat, and bookmark that page and keep an eye on it. There have been some changes, and we want to just be as clear and transparent as those as possible. So keep an eye on that page. Nicholas, I know you're typing the answer to that question from Carolina. I'm just wondering whether you could speak to that one. It sounds like a really interesting one in terms of the MGEM program. Do we have a job board? What kind of companies demand people with such a degree?
Thanks. I'd love to answer it live. So a lot of diverse jobs for people that do geomatics. The provincial governments and federal governments employ people with geospatial skills all the time. So we see people go into departments like Department of Environment, Department of Climate, Departments of Forestry. We have people go into things like ocean and sea, people who look after our marine resources because they need to go away and map and understand the changes in marine resources. So government's a big employer. There's also the private industry. We've had a number of students going on to work for remote sensing companies, private companies, satellite builders, satellite providers. So you might get a job in that particular area. Non-government agencies like World Wildlife Fund, we've had graduates leave our program and go and work for them as well. So really across the board, our consulting companies, we've even had students set up their own companies, a drone imaging company based from people out of MGEM. So I think there's a broad range of skills there, always with that geospatial sort of focus, but it could be the federal government, state governments, provincial governments, private industry, and NGOs.
I can answer the question about the jobs board really quickly. So
Yeah.
the MGEM program does have a job board. It is password protected though, and it is designed as a resource for the students who are in the program and who have done the program. So if you've seen that on the website and you haven't been able to access that, that's because we kind of keep that for the students who are in the program. It's one of the resources that we do provide to make sure that students are sort of seeing these new and emergent jobs. And sometimes that's because myself or Nicholas sort of get sent jobs and postings that might not necessarily be available to the public. So we keep that behind our jobs board. And then, yeah, Nicholas mentioned some really great areas where our alumni are employed. And, I can, we have people working for the David Suzuki Foundation, for Esri Canada, for someone just started their own new consulting company looking at eelgrass in the coast. And so, he kind of covered this really broad range of what our alumni go on to do. So really, the sky's the limit with the MGEM program because geospatial data is everywhere and it's only becoming more and more common and more widely used. So.
Awesome. Just in terms of career opportunities, I just want to jump over to Boyd's question here. I think, Ken, you wanted to answer this one live about future employment opportunities in the forestry industry, such as specifically concerning jobs for RPFs. Could you jump in on that one?
Sure, I'd be happy to. I mean, the past several years, we've had very positive placement or employment results for graduates exiting the program. Of course, there's going to be fluctuations in every industry. I mean, Nicholas cited, things in flux with Canada. There's rules around trade that may affect it. Having said that, forestry, a career in professional forestry is not necessarily dependent on harvesting trees. There's a lot more work being done on, restoring ecosystems and also community protection in fire fuel loading reduction treatments, example. The field, the potential opportunities as a professional forester range from the operational, harvesting trees, to more the ecological, where you're managing ecosystems for wildlife and other features. And it could even be social forestry. So those coming in with more of an arts background might be more inclined towards those positions. So it's not just restricted to harvesting. Of course, the harvesting and the industry does go through cycles, and we are going through one now. And it does dip, but then it always does come back as well. So having experienced that personally, graduating into a market where the industry was in a low point, it did come back, and it did come back for me and a lot of my colleagues as well. So there's always a risk, to answer your question, but it's a very rewarding career that gets you outside and gets you working with a lot of different people.
Excellent. I just want to jump to this question from Ceciline. For people with a non-science background, in their case, they have a BA and MA in economics. What preparation would you recommend for applying to forestry programs in 2026? Or could a strong background in statistics, data analysis compensate for some of the science requirements that they don't have? So I guess, is it worth, is it important for candidates to try and gain some experience if they don't have it? Are there any other tips for sort of preparing for a strong application in 2026? Because there's people have got time now, you see, where they could take additional courses or fill in the gaps in their resume.
Absolutely. So I think it depends what program you're talking about, because obviously there's 4 here, and each of us have slightly different recommendations for the background that you've come from. But the best thing to do is reach out to us. We'd be more than happy to look at your transcripts, look at what you've done, and then go through and see if there's any gaps. And as Shane says, this is great that you're doing that, because if there are gaps, we can then recommend how to fill those gaps. It might be as simple as doing an online course, doing a summer course, maybe doing an undergraduate course that you need to do just to fill in what you might be missing. So there's no blanket answer to what do you need for what, but we'd be all of us would be very happy to look at your transcripts, work with you, work out where the gaps are, and make recommendations to ensure that your application is the most competitive it can be. So reach out.
Yeah, thanks for that. I know there's quite a few questions in the Q&A that are quite specific, and it's really hard for us to answer them in this type of session. But you can see the contact information here. Do reach out to us. The team is ready to help, and we can give you that personalized response. So do let us know. Just looking for any other questions here, any more general questions that we can answer. Oh, this is an interesting one from Raina. Considering that there are different forest regions, does the information taught in the MSM program, and I guess any of our programs, translate well to Eastern Canada, to the landscapes and terrain in Eastern Canada?
Well, of course, there's the boreal forest. We don't usually go up there. There is an opportunity possibly through the landscape level project to collaborate with community forest in the northern regions. We do, however, cover quite a few ecosystems in British Columbia, at least 6 or 7 separate ecosystems in British Columbia, and British Columbia is the most diverse province. So anywhere you take your skills elsewhere in Canada, you will be coming from the most complex, most diverse forest to arguably one that is a little bit more uniform in other parts of Canada. So we can't always take you out to, say, Quebec or New Brunswick or anything like that. However, we do bring in foundational principles that can be applied to any ecosystem. So whether you're in the States or whether you're in Eastern Canada, there are some fundamental principles around forestry that can be applied anywhere, that enable you to ask these diagnostic questions that are necessary to find answers to manage a landscape and stand sustainably.
Excellent, thanks, Ken. We've just got a couple of minutes to go now, and I do want to make sure that we have time just for the sweatshirt raffle, so we'll do that in a moment. But I just want to turn it back to the panelists to ask them if they have any final thoughts, application advice, or anything to sort of wrap us up here. Thank you so much for answering so many questions. It's been really helpful. And as we've said, do reach out to the team. You can contact us. They'll be willing to help and to answer any specific questions. And also, sign up for the mailing list as well, so that you can keep up to date with any future events, application deadlines, things like that. So do be in touch with us as you move forward with your research and move forward with your application. Okay. I mentioned at the beginning that we were going to raffle one of these sweatshirts, one of only 10 of these Faculty of Forestry sweatshirts, so very, very unique. So the winner is, let me check in with Sonia and see that the winner is Patrick McBabel. I hope I got that right. But Patrick McBabel, you've won the sweatshirt. Well done. Please hang on, and Sonia's going to connect with you in the chat just to get your email address, and then we can be in touch, and we'll get that one posted out to you. Well done. We'll hopefully see you at UBC Vancouver soon, wearing your sweatshirt. Hopefully you'll be able to wear it when you arrive. Amazing. Panelists, any final thoughts before we wrap things up here? Are we good?
Well, I just want to re-echo what Nicholas said. Please reach out to all of us. If you don't have our specific emails, the team at the Course-Based Masters always forwards specific questions along. But we're really happy to chat with prospective students as well to help make sure your fit and your application are as strong as possible.
Brilliant. Amazing. Well, thanks everyone for listening. Thanks for being here today. Thank you to our panelists. We'll wrap things up and we'll say thank you very much, and we'll look forward and hope to see you soon here at UBC Vancouver. Goodbye for now. Thanks, everyone.